Hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all. Welcome back once again to It's Been a Journey podcast with your girl Chanel. And tonight we have an explosive episode, one that had me nervous. I had to tell him I was shaking my hands and I was like, Lord, okay. Because some people are still dealing with what we're about to talk about tonight. But tonight's episode is tender, is raw, and powerful. We have Apostle Dezra Hines here and she's joining us to testify, to give her testimony of survival, resilience, and spiritual restoration. We know that this may stir some deep emotions, especially for those who have experienced spiritual abuse. We don't talk about that often, but there is such thing. But I invite you to listen in as she shares her journey and how God delivered her. She's breaking the silence. We sing the song break every chain. But y'all, when it comes to breaking chain, that takes a whole lot of Jesus. Okay? So before we begin today's episode, I want to offer a strong trigger warning and disclaimer. This conversation includes real conversation and sensitive experiences involving spiritual abuse, coercion, domestic violence, and manipulation. Within a religious setting, Apostle Hans courageously sharing her story of survival, of disguising, of a cult that's disguised as a holiness church, including details about arranged marriage and emotional and physical trauma. If you are currently in a vulnerable place or healing from religious trauma, we call that church hurt, okay? We encourage you to listen with care or come back when you feel emotionally ready. This episode is not intended to attack any specific religious denomination or belief system, but to shed a light on the very real issue of spiritual abuse and toxic control within the religious space. And look, y'all, pastors, we have Jezebel from the front door to the back door. Okay, listeners, discretion is advised. And as always, your mental and emotional health will come first. Remember, we on this journey together. So Apostle is here tonight, and she is my guest. She's a true warrior in spirit, a woman who has walked through the fire and came out refined, not burned. Once entangled in a religious cult, masked as a holiness church, Apostle Hines was spiritually manipulated, emotionally defined, and given into arranged and abusive marriage under the name God. But through it all, God, truth found her. Her story is not just about what she survived, but about how she rose, reclaimed her identity, and now boldly ministered to help others break free from spiritual bondage. Apostle Dezra is a voice for the voiceless, a guide for those lost in deception, and a living testimony that even when religion and people of the cloth fail you, God never will. Welcome tonight, y'all. This warrior unleashed, Apostle Dezra Hines. Hey,
Amen.
look, I know
Bless
those
you, woman of
songs,
God. Bless you.
but I want to make sure that I gave you the accolades due for not just surviving, but thriving and striving, in God. You're a true warrior unleashed. I like that. I like that title. So tell a lot of our listeners that's here tonight about your ministry, Warrior Unleashed.
Yeah, of course. And first and foremost, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me here to just share some knowledge pertaining to the testimony of what I've gone through. But Warriors Unleashed International Ministries is a ministry for the nations, is a ministry of intercession, deliverance, is a ministry that awakens. It's a ministry that activates the anointings and the callings on the lives of God's people, those that are lost, those who are confused, those who may have been dealing with identity issues, those who was pushed aside, those who may have been muzzled by way of family or churches or what have you growing up. They can now be unmuzzled. They can now be all that God has called them to be without shame,
Mm,
without worry, and without insecurities. This is a ministry that equips. It's the ministry that trains prophetically. This is the ministry that teaches and is really expounds upon the relationship and the intimacy of and with our Father. So this is Warriors Unleashed. If you were muzzled before, you won't be muzzled again. If you was locked up
Ooh,
before, you won't be locked up again. You can be all that God has called you to be, unapologetic.
oh,
So we really expound upon intercession, prayer, relationship, prophetic trainings, understanding who you are, unity in the ministry of Jesus Christ. That's what Warriors Unleashed is, just in a nutshell.
right. Look, that is awesome because I felt that unleash was very necessary in your journey. You know, it defines that because you had to,
Yeah.
God had to break some chains. But before we even get into that, I want to tell them how I met you. And
Amen.
uh, I think it was Apostle and a prophetess Saunders. I think they
Yes.
shared one of your lives, and I went on there, and your tongues had penetrated to where a whole week and a half had passed, and I still could, it's like
Wow.
it was just imparting like the mantle. I could. It was my first time experiencing. And it was
Jesus.
on me so I could still feel it. I could still feel it. First time it ever happened. And I was like, you know what? I might not need to get back on there no more. I don't know what's going on.
My
And then
God.
God gave me something to tell you, to call you. Listen, y'all. I was like, now, Lord, how I'm gonna call and tell her something.
Lord.
you know, because we think we small and how they say we small in our own eyes.
Right.
I can't go
No.
over there. Them giants over there. This is an
Gee.
apostle over there. I'm just Chanel down here in Mississippi. And I called. And it so happened. No, I think I messaged you, and then we conversed. I called you, and I gave you the information, and it was confirmation on some
Yeah.
things. And I was like, Lord. When I got off, I was like, Lord.
My God.
Whew. Yeah. I was like,
Look, you and me
I don't
both.
know. Right. But we had a good
Yeah.
conversation, and
It
it
was.
led to a beautiful connection. And I thank
Yes.
God for it because I tell you, it just did something to me. When you went into that ministry of tongues, and it was just
My
it like
God.
it just burned whatever I
My
needed. It
Jesus.
spoke to my spirit. That's when my first time, not naturally speaking, it was spirit talking to spirit.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, Lord, okay.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Don't
and I tell
start.
you, he really, really look. You see the head when the head get to shaking, it
Listen.
get.
Yes, Lord.
So we gonna
Mm.
try to get through this, y'all.
My
But I'm
God.
telling
Bear
you,
with us.
this bear with
Mm.
us,
Jesus.
please. But I
My
can
God.
feel that so many people need this. So if y'all see me looking up my monitor here, I got a few out here, but I want to make sure I put y'all comments and whatever you tag in, or you might have a question for Apostle up on the screen, so she may see it and maybe something that she want to talk about before we get into this. And when I contact Apostle, I didn't know what God said. Contact her, and that's how most of the time my guests be on. Either we
Yeah.
holding a conversation. I was like, you know what? We need to talk about this live. Or you know what? I need to contact her. Lord said contact. And I did not know it was gonna be at to me, we talk about all abuse. We talk about, like I was telling her earlier, house, we talk about school bullying, abuse, we talk about verbal, physical. We had a young lady, Sister Jones, on here, and she dealt with physical abuse. We had but very rarely do we talk about spiritual abuse. And most time we
Jesus.
put that in the category of church hurt,
Mm.
but nobody really know what that hurt definition is. So
My God.
we are going to talk about this journey tonight. So as I said, y'all, be sensitive to the spirit, and we're going to allow her to share her testimony with us. So before you entered the church, what do you think your heart was searching for? What were you longing for spiritually, emotionally, or even relationally in
Yeah.
your life at that moment?
I can definitely say at that moment, I was looking for love, right? I was looking for compassion. I was looking for acceptance. I can, without going too far back, but throughout my life, I dealt with rejection heavy, right?
Mm,
I dealt with not feeling wanted or feeling loved or feeling a part of anything. Um, but when I encountered that ministry, that church, I was looking for love. I was looking for answers. I was looking to be accepted. I was looking for something. I didn't quite know what I was looking for, per se, to narrow that down. But I knew I was looking for something to make me feel loved again, to make me feel accepted, um, because of what I just got out of and what I was currently in. I just at that moment, I just lost my daughter at the age of 1. She's 22,
mm,
and she was taken from me. And then I was also in an abusive, very abusive domestic violence relationship,
mm,
and I was by myself with that. So I was looking for answers. I was looking for someone to save me,
mm,
also help me get out. But also, I was looking for what I never had. I never had the love of God. I was looking for acceptance. I'm telling you. So that's what drew me, and that's what I was looking for.
well, when you said that your daughter was taken from you, I know, well, mine passed away, but to physically take it from you, she's 22, and to have them still there and can't reach out, that, physically, my daughter was gone. I know I couldn't, but
Right.
how did you feel, knowing she's just an arm length phone call down the street? Where did that take you to as a mother?
I felt empty. I felt like a failure. I felt like my when I finally got to trust, or when I finally trusted people, I was betrayed. I was rejected again. I was abandoned. I was, connected to only to be mishandled. I was mishandled. So I felt empty as a mother. I felt like a failure. That was my first daughter. And and when she was taken far, far that I had no means of reaching, and there was no contact. So I did. I felt empty as a mother. I felt like, what is the whole purpose of even living? But I had a son, and I had to
Mm,
live for my son. But no one, if you never experienced a child being taken from you unjustly by court systems, you would never understand the feeling. And I was a teenage mother at that. So I did. I felt like a failure. I felt empty. I felt like everything was my fault. I felt like something I could have done something different. I was just in a place of emptiness and void at that moment
mm,
when she was taken. There's nothing like someone when you're on your way to get your child, and then someone says, "No, no, 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 you can't come get her. You can't come within 15 feet of her."
mm.
The
Yeah.
people that you trusted, the people that said, and I know this isn't the topic, but this is what leads up to why
Hmm.
I entered into the ministry.
Exactly.
But the people that say, "Trust us, just trust us and let us help you.
Mm,
Let us help you. You're a teenage mom. Let us help you."
mm,
And when you do, when you go get her, you can't get her.
mm,
You can see her from afar, but you can't touch her. 1 year old. So it left me empty. It left me in a place of darkness, and feeling like a failure as a mother and as a human being. And I felt like a fool for trusting and loving
mm.
those who said, "Yeah, you can trust us." You know. So that's how it made me feel. The rejection
Yeah.
on a whole nother level.
And a whole nother
Rejection on a whole
feeling
nother level.
rejection. Rejection from the beginning, rejection with people. And so that does lead us to how can you describe the initial draw, that you was drawn to that church? Because if you dealing with all these emotion, they tell us coming to the house of the Lord.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Wow.
tell us what drew you to that particular ministry. And were there certain teachings or people that made you feel safe,
Yeah.
made you feel like holiness was in that place at that time?
It was their approach, woman of God. It was their approach. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was their approach that made me feel safe. It was their character, their behaviors that looked familiar to what I was used to, but it wasn't good at the time. I know now, but it was their approach. They was out, and I was on the street, and I was at the grocery store, and they was evangelizing,
Mm-hmm.
and they approached me and said, do you know Jesus Christ, and do you believe Him to be your Lord and Savior? And that drew me because
Mm-hmm.
I knew of God, but I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. I knew of Jesus, I heard, but I never had a relationship. But I knew that I was empty. I knew I was dark. And it was the approach and the timing that drew me. Um, it wasn't anything elaborate that they did. They just appeared to show love. And they appeared to give me something that I was needing and I was hungry for. They gave me that attention that I needed. Can somebody just see me? And so they approached me and they let me know they saw me. I'm seen.
Mm-hmm.
They was out doing their job and they saw me. And someone that felt invincible, someone that was deemed mean or just evil, even in childhood, you saw me and you loved me. You approached me and you talked to me. So it was the approach. It was the approach that they talked to me and they asked me about something that I knew nothing about, I knew of. And surely I was searching for something. My spirit man I knew was searching for something, but I didn't know. So I took that as a sign as maybe this is it. The
Mm-hmm.
approach, the way they show love, the way that they cared, the way that they talked to me like a human. It That's what drew me. That's what drew me in. And when they invited me, and me and my ex husband at that time, boyfriend, he was my boyfriend then, they invited me and they just showed love. That's
Right.
They showed a love. But even the enemy can come as an angel of light. But they showed the
That's
love that drew me.
so. Can you walk us through how that came about? The love and what the environment was once you was in there, and
Yeah.
did that love
Yeah. Once
mirror
I
what?
got in, yes,
Mm-hmm.
ma'am. Once I got in, it was beautiful. I got in and I noticed people how they was, worshiping. They was tearing. They was tearing all. They was tearing. They was tearing. I said, "Wow, I wanna speak in tongues like that. I want to say, I want to do that." And they begin to show love, and they begin to say, "We're here for you. You look like," and they begin to prophesy. We know that you've been through much. And at that time, I was staying in a hotel. I was a motel. I'm sorry. I was staying in a motel on a prostitution strip, okay, and a drug
Mm-hmm.
infested strip. And it was me, my son, and at that time my ex husband. And but they drew me in, and what I noticed is an atmosphere that I never experienced before. Oh my God. The environment was something that was different for me. Not just because the environments are different does not mean they're God, but the environment was different for me. And because we're spiritual beings, I gravitated to what was taking place in the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so initially, when I first came, that's what it was worship. And then I got to meet the pastor. And so the woman that I met on the streets, when she approached me, she then introduced me to the pastor. I came back for another service. I
Mm-hmm.
said, I'm going back. I feel good. I feel good. I feel like this is what, I'm called to do. I'm going in this direction. I want to be saved. And when I got a chance to meet the pastor, the first thing he said was, "Are you saved?" I said, "No, I'm not saved." And he said, um, if you want to go to heaven, you gotta be saved because right now
Mm-hmm.
you're going to hell. And I said, "Oh God." So that the environment for me was fear. Um,
Mm-hmm.
how he got us in and how he kept me in was fear. Okay. They would say things such as, "My God, you guys are together, you and your boyfriend are together, you have to be married or you're going to hell." So there was a lot of talks of what we must do and how we must be a part of the ministry so we don't go to hell. So that was the environment. But the environment appeared to be Worship. Looking
Hmm.
back at that time, I don't see a lot of the word that was being brought forth, but I do remember worship. I do remember tarrying. I do remember hours of tarrying on our knees. And I wasn't able to get up until I was in tongues, but it didn't work.
Mm.
I was just acting like I was in tongues, but
Right.
that was the environment. It was nothing but worship and a lot of tarrying.
A lot of it. And most people don't realize, when you see things that you're looking for, because we were talking earlier about when I joined this ministry when I was in Kentucky, the state of Kentucky, and it was so like, wow, I came from Koji, but then this was like a whole nother level. The
Yeah,
thing, it was like gradually stuff was taken. They was taking this, taking that, you know, don't do this. It was so much don't. I was like, so what
yeah,
do we do? And then after a while, I just had to humble myself and say, so Lord, am I in the right spot? Because, most time we don't even seek him. We searching, like you said, I was searching for some, raised in Koji. I was like, okay, I wanted to get out the traditional, not talking about y'all church if y'all on here, but still, I wanted to see. And they was high in the spirit and everything.
wow,
And I was like, oh Lord. And I experienced some things that I never experienced. And I was like, okay, but then gradually, like something was not right. It was not
wow.
right. So, what was some of your red flags in questionable doctrine that you now recognize as manipulative and unbiblical that you wouldn't
Yeah.
be doing no more?
A couple of them. As I look back, I'm like, my God, that was horrible. But there was a couple of things that I've noticed looking back that I didn't realize it was manipulation. It was control.
Mm,
Um, One of the things leading up to what we're going to discuss was I couldn't get a job. Okay, I could not get
mm,
a job until the leader, the pastor, approved of it. Um, I had to wear, I had to be covered from the head down to my feet. Nothing, none of my skin was to show. Okay, if not, I would be rebuked. Um, but one thing the major thing that stuck out to me, and the Lord begins to bring back to my remembrance,
mm,
um, is I would everything, all the decisions, physically, mentally, marriage decisions, had to go through the leader first. I had to consult with the leader. Okay. I had to consult with the leader for the leader to tell me what my next steps was. And as the Lord began to deal with me, he began to say leadership, it should be for guidance. It should not be for dictatorship. And I noticed that in that particular church, it was a lot of dictatorship going
mm,
on, that I couldn't, even at the time of one of my interviews as a waitress, one of the women that was assigned to me that I had to stay with and leave all of my family and cut communication with everybody else. She had to assist me and stay with me at interviews. But at this particular interview, I interviewed well. I was excited for the job. It was my first job, and in order for me to receive the job, the manager at that time, he began to offer me the job, but I could not take the job until I got on the phone with the pastor
mm,
and went over some things that I had to make sure that the boss understood that I could not do or could do.
mm,
Okay, and I remember the woman that was assigned to me. She called the leader, and I began to disclose the hours. I began to disclose the uniforms, and he
mhm,
said, "You can't take that job if they want you to wear pants. You can't take that job if any part of you is if you can't wear your turban."
mm,
And I begin to talk to the manager and say, I have to wear this for my religious purposes. I have to wear this. Is this okay? And at that time, I did not understand the severity of that control and manipulation until the Lord began to
Mm,
show me via intimacy and relationship with Him that that's not God.
mm,
Um, but the boss began to say, yeah, that's okay. So now I begin to tell the manager what I can and cannot do prior to getting accepted for a waitress job. And
mm,
there was one thing that he said that I could not do, and that was my hours. I was only able to work a certain time frame of hours, and the manager could not approve that, and I was not able to keep the job, because with these other red flags, we have to they take up all of your time. This ministry
mm,
takes up all of your time, even if you're not doing anything at all. You have to be available just in case.
mm,
Okay, you have to be. So they would take up all your time and they will tire you out, whether it is services or midweek services, what have you. You will be tired. You won't have time for anything or anyone else. Another red flag that I noticed was as I was sitting. It's so much. I'm trying to cut it
Go
short, but
ahead. We
as I
got
was
time.
sitting in the ministry, doing a Bible study session, I began to feel like there was daggers literally stabbing me on my left side. I'll never forget.
Mm,
I was being stabbed. I was being stabbed, and as the leader, the pastor of the ministry, he saw what was taking place, but kept teaching. But I was being brutally stabbed, and I said, "Oh my God!" So much so I was leaning over, and I was holding my side. And after Bible study was over, I met with him in the office, and I said, "While you were teaching, I kept getting stabbed on my side. I kept getting stabbed." And he was like, "Yeah, I saw that. That's because you are disobedient."
mm,
And I said, "Well, I'm doing all that I can. I'm doing everything that you're telling me to do. I don't want to go to hell." And this is someone that is fresh. This is someone that's desperate. I have never encountered the spirit like this. So at this point, I just want to please God. I just want to do what I got to do so that I don't go to hell. I don't know the ins and outs. I just know I don't want to go to hell. I don't want to burn for eternity. So at this point, you can tell me anything, and I'm going for it because
mm,
ignorance. My people perish for lack of knowledge, right? So I was perishing because I didn't know better,
right.
and it that was one of them. Okay,
Mm,
so there was just a lot how I was being demonically attacked within the ministry and sitting in the pews. That was a red flag for me. The manipulation, the control. I couldn't get just any job. They had it set up that the women of the ministry had one job,
mm.
and that they would set up all the women in the ministry to remain having just that one occupation. So even our jobs was controlled. Our mental was controlled. Our finances was controlled. Our marital status was controlled, and of course, we'll go there
Mm,
as well. Everything was. I had no control over my life. You're here for guidance. You're not here to control or dictate my life. So
mm.
those are just a few red flags.
Right. So how did you survive that? Because you saying you was already living in a motel with your family at the time. How did you survive them regulating your money, your time? How did you stay first emotionally stable, but just physically stable, financially with them? Did they give you just enough, like breadcrumb you? How did you survive that?
Honestly, I can honestly say I survived by God.
Mm,
There's no other explanation I have. There's no other answer, because at that time I did not have a relationship with the Lord. I was going off the relationship of the ministry. I was going off the relationship of and the guidance of the pastor of that ministry. So honestly,
mm.
I can really say God is a keeper.
He's a
I can
keeper.
honestly say the Lord got me
Mm,
through it. Also, I believe that because the Lord knew my heart, He knew. We always say the Lord knows our heart, and our heart be nasty,
hmm
and it gives us an excuse to do what we do. But I can honestly say that the Lord knew my heart and knew that I really wanted to serve and please Him because I just came out and still was in some traumatic situations. So I can
Mm.
honestly say I got through that portion because of God and because of the greater plans that He has had for my life. God allows us to go through things for a time and a season for a particular purpose that He has for your life. So I believe I got through it because of the Lord.
I know. No, they said nobody but Jesus.
Nobody but God.
Nobody. Because our when you go through so much turmoil, because it was like a moment even in my life, even just recently, the last since 2020, back to back to back to back, and not even talking about in the ministry. So for
Yeah.
you to have people to regulate you, put you back in a state of a child,
Yeah.
that does something to your mental mind, period.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Wow.
did you feel like you lost confidence within yourself to handle you, to handle Dezra before the apostle? Did you feel like, okay, if they handling everything for me, what's the use? I'm just gonna walk as they tell me to walk, just to, how most of us, remember I said earlier, I'm like, me, Lord? Me, call?
Right.
Did you have moments you felt like that?
Yes, and indeed. And I apologize. I'm I can barely hear you now,
Okay.
but um truth of the matter is I never had confidence then. Um
Mm,
that's why I was so easily lured. That's why I was so easily lured in. I didn't have confidence. I put my confidence in people and their structures. I didn't have it. I was literally going off of the strength of people. I literally made these people and this ministry God. Um,
mm,
I I lost confidence a long time ago. I lost confidence when my daughter was taken. So I didn't have anything. I was strictly leaning on the ministry, thinking they was leaning on God.
right. And being right there and then to take you from having you bondage in your finances and your stability, just say, now we talk about the arranged marriage.
Yeah,
So walk us through that. Tell us how did that even come about? What are things they
yeah,
see so others may recognize?
yeah. Um, the arranged marriage it occurred and of course it was arranged. I was already with my ex-boyfriend then. They arranged it, but one of the things they mentioned was, listen, you're together, um, you got to get married, okay? If you
Hmm.
don't get married, you're going to hell. I'm
Hmm.
telling you, they use the word hell. Yeah, hell is real, but teach me relationship too. Teach me the whys. Don't use it as a control mechanism. And the Bible in the wrong hands of people is like a weapon of mass destruction. But they said, yeah, the Bible in the wrong hands of people, the Lord said it again, it's like a weapon of mass destruction, the hands in the wrong people. But they said you gotta get married to him because it's the only way you can move forward, and it's the only way that God will be pleased with you and you won't go to hell. And again, I don't want to go to hell. Okay, whatever I gotta do. Even though he's
Mm,
beating on me, even though we're fighting every day, even though he's choking me out, even though, he's cussing me out, he's down, he's degrading me, even though they didn't care about that. You got to get married so you don't go to hell. Even though I'm looking for a way out, I don't care. I don't. You got to get married. So in
mm,
the process of that, I said, okay, all right, maybe if I get married, things will change. So all right. So they said, this is what we're going to do. The marriage is going to be on this date, this time, at this location, at this church. You won't have a hand in anything. You just show up at this date, this time, at this location. We'll put a dress on you. We already got a dress for you. We already got the shoes for you. And then this is what we're going to do. We're going to separate you from him for a total of 6 months. And you're going to go stay 45 minutes outside of where I was staying at that time. I still have no idea where I was. It was somewhere
mm,
out of nowhere. Okay. When I looked outside, I seen woods. Okay. So you're going to go with this lady. I believe she was very sweet at that time. I said, okay. I was
Mm,
staying in a hotel. I felt like it was the best option. I felt like it was a come up. I felt like I actually had a room. I felt like I had a little peace from getting hit on, from getting beat, from fighting every day. You know,
mm,
and maybe if I stayed away, he'll miss me and he'll see and he'll change. So I agreed, and I don't want to go to hell. So they say, well,
mm,
you're going to go here with this elder. She's going to keep you. She's going to take care of you. No job, no money. So you have no way out. You can't drive. I didn't know how to drive. I didn't have a
mm,
car. I didn't have a license. This is what the enemy does. He preys on the weak.
mm,
He preys on the vulnerable. So it's out here in the middle of nowhere. I couldn't talk to anyone. So my family didn't know where I was. I have 7 brothers and sisters. No one knew where I was. My father and mother was maybe about 3 hours, 4 hours away. They didn't know where I was. I let them take my son and for this
mm,
process. And I said, take care of my son for this process because I got to go through this process for the Lord. I don't want to go to hell. That's all they
mm,
knew. That's all they knew. And as I was there for 6 months, so we were separated, okay, for 6 months while I was prepping and preparing for marriage and the wedding. And I would see him and bring him food and pay for the hotel room that he was in. And I would go back and I would talk to him maybe once a week. But I was completely separated from civilization and the people that I knew and my friends.
mm,
So when I considered a very good friend, a best friend of mine, I could not talk to. I had to stay isolated. And the thing about cults is, or cultist ministries, they will isolate you. Isolation is not of
mm,
God. I know that now.
mm,
They were, if you're in the ministry, I got, and they try to say, cut off everything and everybody that is not associated with this ministry. That's not God. That's a cult. That's manipulation. That's control. That's witchcraft. How do I know it's,
mm,
in the process of the arranged marriage, I was being attacked by, I was being attacked by demons, literally walking in the bedroom. I could hear them choking me out. And I said, oh my God, here we go again. I can literally see images of demons. I
mm,
will wake up and my hands would be waving off of the bed because I was being pulled by demons. Yeah.
mm,
And I thought it was just normal because I didn't know.
mm,
And based on what I've already experienced, I've already experienced, I see things, I feel things in the spirit from a young age. So I thought it was just normal. I
mm,
didn't think anything of it. I didn't think of this red flag. And one thing I noticed, she would constantly feed me in the process of getting ready for this marriage.
mm,
Um, but I was tormented. I was I was tormented. And even at times I would ask, hey, can I come sleep in your bed? Because I'm scared. Because I didn't know who I was. I just knew I
mm,
did not want to go to hell. I
mm.
was scared.
Yeah.
And I was being attacked in the same bed that she was sleeping peacefully in, preparing to be married. So then, fast forward, because we're not
But
talking
wait,
about the
before you go
witchcraft and things.
forward, yes, we
Yes.
are. Yeah, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, 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 yes. Because me and my prophetess was talking recently about feeding. Somebody wanted to feed her. And a lot of times we do not think about the food. We
Yeah.
bless our food. Do you know witches? They bless their food so the spirits can do what they do. So when you spoke about, and not, I didn't mean to cut you when
Oh
I
no.
said, I just, because it stuck on me, it hit me in the chest because we was talking about it. I do not want to skip it because a lot of people go places and eat. You go to these different conferences, people coming and invite you, and they from other countries or other states, and you go and you break bread with them.
Yeah.
So when she was feeding you, did you even was it getting worse, those demonic things, when she was sleeping in the same bed? Because I had, y'all, when I first moved into my barbershop, that thing was in my face. I could feel the heat
Yeah.
from his breath. You hear me?
Yeah.
And I had to go through and find out what it was. And the Lord told me it was an old, old rebel flag in the shop. And it was high above the rafters. And I remember I asked someone to go get it. for me. I said, would you get that? And instantly, that thing was in that man. He was sitting in that barber chair. He turned to me and said, leave it alone. I knew it
Wow.
wasn't him, it was the enemy. So for you to be that close and they put her there, she seemed, okay? It's like Sleeping Beauty. You seem like a homeless old lady with this apple.
Yeah.
When she was feeding you, take us through what you felt during those days with her. Could you see anything within her? Because all of this is a part of that ministry. And
Right.
a lot of times people don't look at the imps, they call it, or the demons that, we have armor bearers. They do too. So, how did you feel being with her? Do you feel like she was grooming you? Do you feel like she was, what did you feel at that
I,
moment?
at that moment, I felt, oh, she wants to feed me. So
Mm,
nice. She can cook. She loves to cook. Um,
mm,
this is refreshing. I hadn't had this in a while.
mm,
You care for me so much that you want to feed me, sit at the table, watch me eat, and make sure it's done,
mm,
and make
mm,
sure I'm satisfied. That's so sweet. You want to make sure I'm satisfied. But so I felt at that moment that she cared.
mm,
But then the eyes never. I always tell people the eyes never lie. But there was
mm,
something in the eyes. Yeah, there
mm,
was a darkness in the eyes, and there was something with the smile. When she would say, "Eat," and make sure you eat all of it.
mm, mm,
Get full.
mm,
But she was so
mm,
sweet
mm,
that she wouldn't. The natural eye would not perceive the assignment of the spirit in the spirit. And I wrestled with the Lord, and I say, was she just doing what she was told, or did she know what she was doing? And
mm-hmm,
the Lord said a little of both,
mm,
and a little of both, because
mm,
and she knew, and the only reason why He said that, and looking back, I would say, I'm scared. This is happening. This is going on. This is a house in the middle of woods, in the middle of nowhere. I have no clue. And she wouldn't. There was no prayer. There was no intercession. There was no covering. Um, and the Lord said, if you look back, a lot of your attacks came while you were sleeping beside her. Yeah.
mm,
So demonic
mm,
attacks. These things are real. Witchcraft is real, and it's not. You don't have to have a cauldron. You don't have to, be over a cauldron and stirring to be considered to be operating in
mm-hmm,
witchcraft. Witchcraft is perversion. Is the opposite of doing what the Lord asks us and tells us to do. It's disobedience. And
mm-hmm,
it was horrible. It was that feeling was. I'm glad I'm somewhere that someone cares, but I'm
mm.
also scared and I'm ready to get out.
Ready
But
to
this
get
is
out.
the most love and acceptance that I felt in a long time.
Mm-hmm,
And I'm not getting my face bashed in and beat in every day. And I'm eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I can take the attacks because I'm used to it. But this was on a
mm-hmm,
whole nother level. And the Lord began to say, I allowed you to sleep with a witch so you can gain authority over it.
oh,
And I allowed you to be in a house with that.
mm-hmm. So you
So you
took,
will not
yeah,
be scared to come toe to toe with it.
that's
When you
good.
finally realize who you are. I
Mm,
didn't know. So at that moment, I was appreciative because I didn't know.
mm.
But
Right.
I was also scared because I wanted to get
Mm,
out.
right. So it was something that you told me once you was married and the abuse began again and you went to them. You went to them for prayer. You know, the Bible said go to your elders and everything. Tell us what happened in that process when you finally said I do.
What happened in the process with him while I was with
Hmm.
her?
Yeah, when you finally got married and you told them about the abuse had started back, you because
Oh
you
yeah.
back in the house with them. Tell my audience and the people that's on here, what did they tell you? Because
Yes.
I wrestled with that like
So
2 3 days.
it's a lot. So after we got married, the 6 months was over. We met at the location. They put the dress on me. They put the veil over me. I walked down the aisle. We said our dues and we had a little all that good stuff. We went back to the hotel and it got worse.
Mm,
It got worse.
mm,
So the next service, I let it go for a couple of months. And I went to the pastor of that service. And I said, "Can we talk? I have something to talk to you about." He said, "Yeah, come on in." Very nice. He was very nice. And I said, "It's getting worse." I said, "He's fighting me and I'm scared I'm going to die. I'm scared that, yeah, I can fight. This is someone that didn't mind. I had an attitude problem. I had anger issues. I ain't mind fighting. You say one word to me. Look, you talk about somebody else's mama, I'm ready to fight for you. I was one of those. I was a bully to the bullies. I ain't mind jumping seats to come get you. But this was continual and it was getting
mm,
worse. And I said, I'm getting tired and I know what the end is going to be. And I fear that it's going to be me.
mm,
Because as many times as women want to say they're stronger than men, they're not. We're not built to be stronger than men. So the harder I fought, the harder he fought. And I said, it's not. It's getting worse, and I'm scared that something's gonna happen to me. And the pastor's response was this. He said, "You are married. You're his wife, and he's your husband." And
mm,
he said, "Fights. When you're married, you're gonna fight. You're gonna argue. You're gonna fight. But as long as you don't kill each other, it's okay." And I said, "Well, I'm coming here telling you that I'm scared he's going to kill me.
mm,
And you're telling me that this is what happens in marriages. And as long as he doesn't, it's okay. So you're telling me to wait it out
mm,
and box it out until it's too late." That was a red flag for me.
mm,
But because I didn't want to go to hell and I trusted the voice and the counsel of a leader, I stayed longer.
mm. And staying in there. And I don't think this one of the questions, but if you don't mind, you can disregard it because uh, on one episode I brought my daughter in, being a four-time divorcee. Your son was still with you. How did you shield him? Or could you, or could you shield him from what was going on so it wouldn't happen to you?
At that time, because of what was going on, we was back together. We good, all that good stuff.
Mm,
Um, because of what was going on, I shielded him and I said, "Hey, mom, dad, come get him
yeah.
until I get myself together."
Mm,
Um, at that point, I already lost my daughter. Surely I can trust them until I get myself together and figure out how I can get out.
right.
So I shielded him by removing him from the situation.
Mm, good.
That's
That's
that's how I did it. But prior to that, because there was some things that he did see,
mm,
um, he would always say, "It's okay, mommy. It's okay." I didn't want him to see that. I don't.
right.
I'm big on not fighting and arguing in front of the children. I'm big on that. We have any disagreements, shut up and wait until the children are out.
Mm,
But that's how I shielded him. As I began to see that the situations was not going to get better, it was hard for me to get out. I was being threatened that he was going to kill me. I was being threatened that he's going to shoot me. I took my child
mm,
out of that situation before someone comes and get my child like they came and got my daughter.
right.
Yeah,
Right. Right. So being terrified, your baby with parents, because I did the same. My daughters were with my mom until I got my living situation together.
yeah,
So I know how you want to shield them from what's going on because I'm telling you that stuff can impartate, can get into them as Apostle Saunders was talking about with his parent. We all be thinking about like our children,
yeah,
but what about our kids? And sometimes we stay longer
yeah.
because we like, okay, well, I didn't have my father. I had mine, but I was like, I want my son to have his father. But then the fighting and all that, I was like, no, I can't do that. I'm gonna have to get out of here.
Right.
And it's That's a hurtful thing when you still in the midst, but you gotta save, as they say, your cub. You got to,
Yeah.
because that child will cause you
Yeah.
to hurt somebody, you know.
Yes.
So when you finally got the courage, even terrified to leave that atmosphere, that controlling situation, that marriage, how did you gather the strength to walk away? And what did you do to heal, in that process? What did that look like for you?
Walking away from the ministry after so many red flags, after so many indicators that surely God isn't here. Okay. Because, I begin to think and I begin to process things are getting worse. And the counsel that I am getting, I may be young. I was 18. I was 16, 17, 18. I was young.
Mm,
But I begin to think, surely this can't be God. Even though I didn't have, I'm telling you, it was all, this whole thing is God. Me
mm,
getting away and coming to the realization that God isn't in this. But I begin to think, surely this can't be ministry. My father's a pastor, but um, I didn't stay with my father all my life. So I didn't know too much, but I knew my spirit man, God was, I knew something else was with me, and it kept saying, this isn't me, this isn't it. And
mm,
as they were talking about even building different ministries in different locations, even taking me to different locations in other areas that was kind of restricted and secluded, and talking about what to place me over and what I'm going to do in these secluded
mm,
locations that they were building from the ground up. It looked good. It looked like the ministry was moving, but things were getting worse for me. And I understood, now that, when we finally give a yes to the Lord, yeah, we're going to deal with some
mm,
warfare, but not to the warfare that my life is taking.
mm,
I should see something. I should begin to see
mm,
some fruits of my sacrifice. I don't want to go to hell, but it's like I'm living in hell on earth now. I'm getting
mm,
beat up. My first daughter was taken. Now my child has to go to stay with my parents because I don't want him in this situation, and living in a prostituted infested motel. Okay. And because, so I got to deal with the church. And then this particular cult was influencing and was not correcting the domestic violence behavior. So now I have to deal with this too. So I begin to think, and my spirit man begins to say, surely something isn't right. I can't talk to
mm,
anybody. I can't cry out to anybody. It's just you guys, and you guys are telling me to stick in it. You guys are telling me to stick with it. And what got me out was the Lord, and it got me out. What got me out was, I want to see my son, and I want to be
mm,
able to see my daughter again if it's possible. I want to be able to, live and work and have a job, and I want the things, that I see other people having, and I just felt I was tired of being in the dark.
mm,
So that's what gave me the strength. I'm telling you, it was the Lord. I cannot explain um,
mm,
how I got out. I just know God is strategic, and how He deals with me. He deals with me in the ways of instantly get up and go and move. And He says, get up and move. And I moved 2 hours away to where my parents was to get my
mm,
child. And I ended up staying with them for a while. Um, and I went to a safe place because my mama, one thing about my mama, she don't play about her children, and she'll fight you over them.
right.
That was her back in the day. So God allowed me to go in that safe place, although I did not have that relationship with them like that. Like, we all
Mm,
wanted to, like a mother-daughter relationship, or the mother-father relationship. I didn't have a relationship like that. But God moved me into the place of safety under my covering, my natural parents' covering. And it was easy for me to transition and get out of, because as I would visit, they was like, this isn't right. I don't see why this isn't right. I don't see.
mm,
Or when they saw me one time, they see me all covered up. I was shut down. I didn't talk because they didn't want me to. If other people did outside of the ministry did not believe in what the leader taught, then we was not to associate ourselves, okay,
mm,
with them. And this is what's happening in ministries today. And I always say, get out. This is get out of the cult. And one thing that Lord always gives me is Acts 20:29. It says, I know that after I leave, this is Jesus talking. Paul's talking, that savage wolves will come in amongst you and will not spare the flock. This is Acts 20:29. And the savage wolves came after me, knowingly, unknowingly,
Mm,
because of who I was. And they wasn't sparing me. But I knew that something surely wasn't right. How can you be a loving God and you're telling me to stick it out with a man that's killing me?
mm,
How can you be a loving God and you say you love me and you're here to save me and I feel like I'm trapped? I don't know you.
right.
And how can you be a loving God and you put me in this place with people that took me away from the people I knew and close friends and family? I couldn't talk to nobody. Okay.
Mm,
Um, so once what felt like love began to feel like rejection all over again. What felt like acceptance begins to feel like isolation all over again. And this is what happens in ministries that is not led by the spirit of the spirit of the Lord. When you join a ministry, you should not have to cut off everybody else that you knew before. That's not
mm,
God. When you join
mm,
ministries, those people in the ministries are not just your people. They're not just your tribe. There's other people that God will connect you to help you along the way and to catapult you into that next place. You can't isolate yourself within ministries. That's not God. Yeah.
mm.
Yes, there will be people that come that God will say, yeah, you got to disconnect to. But if you disconnect from your family, you disconnect from your loved ones, you disconnect from those that was there for you, that prayed for you, that had nothing but the best intentions from you, that's not God. That's a cult. That's not a ministry.
Mm.
That's a cult. That's manipulation. That's control. If you cannot associate with nobody else but in that ministry, if you can't, man, that's not God.
Go ahead.
Listen, and that's what God allowed me to see, and that's what gave me the strength at that moment to walk away. If people leave the ministry, and all of a sudden those people are witches and Jezebels, and they ain't never going to prosper, you're in the cold. That's what happened to
Mm.
me. You're in the cold. You should stop. You can't curse people for leaving the ministry. You can't do that. That's look. You can't curse because they're not a part of you. If they was anointed in the ministry, they're anointed outside of it.
Oh.
If they were called when you were using the in the ministry, they're still called outside of it. If they try to control your finances, they try to you got to sow this amount of money to be a part of this. That's a code. You gotta if they look at you look if they want to have control of your finances, that's codes. If they're calling you and say, hey, you ain't sold this last week, what's happening? You can't fellowship with other ministries, that's a code. And that's what I was in. I couldn't fellowship. They didn't hardly bring anybody in. I had to throw away all my clothes. When I met them, I had clothes galore. I had to throw away my clothes, my shoes. Only thing I had was my undergarments and what they got me.
Mm.
I had nothing for myself. So when God says it's time to go, your spirit man knows. God is
Mm-hmm.
always with you. God has said, I'm married to the backsliders. When you think God ain't with you, he's with you. You hear me? And he was with me. So what gave me the strength to go? The spirit of the Lord. God did. He let me know, I know you're searching for me, but
Mm.
you just ran into the arms of wolves. You ain't run into the
Mm.
arms of a shepherd. I know you're searching for me. Okay. So I'm going to tell you, you got to go. And the strength of the Lord and the strategy of God is what and how I was able to escape it and with no regrets. And usually it's hard to get out of those things, those cults and cultist ministries. It's hard, but God, man, he allowed it to be easy for me. Even still being a part of, in a domestic violence relationship, I was out of that cultist ministry.
You're right. And the thing that you said, he allowed you to get out. And we was talking when we first, talked about doing this episode, you know, do you feel that he used you for such a time as this? People don't want to say, well, how did, they do say, how did God allow this? Because that might be your ministry. Most time if you're gonna be a soldier in the army, you gotta go to basic training.
That's right.
If you have a certain ministry and anointing, you got to know the devil that you're fooling with. If not, you're
That's
gonna be
right.
running all the time. So now that are walking your full God-given purpose, how has your ministry shaped? How has that experience shaped your ministry?
It gave me understanding. Look, it shaped my ministry. I'm unleashed.
Unleashed,
That's
a
how.
warrior.
Because you know, to make it short, I didn't understand. There was always prophecies. There was, even as a little girl, I remember going to a church in the mountains, and there was a prophet. I didn't know it was a prophet at that time. She called me up. I maybe had to be maybe 10, and she said, "Hey, God is going to use you major when you get big, when you get older, and don't be scared." And
Hmm.
I was scared then. And I did not understand. And then prophecies begin to come. Prophecies begin to come. And I'm like, God, I don't understand how I'm called. I've been through this. I've been through that. I've been through that. I've
Hmm.
been through this. I've experienced this. I've been attacked by demons. I'm getting attacked, pulling my hair. They choking me. I don't, how am I called? My daughter's gone. Abusive. I almost died. I mean, it's just a lot over and over. It's a lot of what I've gone
Yeah.
through. And as I begin to go forth in the Lord, and I begin to repent and say, God, I used to say, remove those memories. Now I say, God, bring them back. And he says, as I'm
Mm.
pushing you forward in your identity and your personal relationship with me, I'm showing you the purpose of the ministry. And I said, okay, God. And he said, this is why you had to go through all that you have gone through, because if you don't go through anything, yea, though I walk through the valleys of the shadows of death, I shall feel no evil. If I don't go through a thing, I won't gain authority over it. If I don't go through a
Mm.
thing, I will never have wisdom to be able to pull those that are going through it now. And so I did not understand. I thought I was a mistake. Times I tried to kill myself, because I didn't understand. And God says, as you continue to give me a yes and pursue in me, I now begin to unfold all of the reasons why you have gone through. So the ministry, the purpose of this ministry, yes, it was shaped because of all that I have gone through, because I cannot speak to a thing and decree and declare that it moves if I have never gone through it. I can't command
Mm.
something to my God. Let me calm down, because I feel the Lord. I can't command something to dissipate or cease if I have never dissipated or ceased it in my going through it, if in my experience. So it's my experience that shapes the ministry. If you ain't been through nothing, baby, you ain't got a ministry. So it's my
Mm.
testimony and my memory of what God allowed me to overcome and triumph over that shapes the ministry of today. So a lot of people don't understand Warriors Unleashed. What does that mean? I'm a warrior.
Mm.
God had called me from the very beginning to be a warrior. And because of all I have gone through, it proves me to be a warrior. And now that I know who I am, now
Mm.
I know my identity, I'm unleashed. So when God says unleash, I unleashed. I'm coming for the witches. I slept with them. I'm coming for the warlocks. I was covered by it. I'm coming for the
Oh.
demons. I was tortured by them from the age I can remember. Look, I'm coming for tradition because I was bound by it. I'm coming for religion, my God, because I was bound by it. I'm coming for these things because those are the things that the people in the woods will betray that God is in, and God ain't in it. I was bound. I was muzzled. I was hurt. I was rejected. I was abandoned. I was all because of because of what I've gone through. And now because I'm healed, it shapes the ministry.
Mm.
Now you go and get those people that was in that place. So it's
Hmm.
that, yeah. So yes, ma'am. I definitely feel like all that I have gone through and all that I continue to go through shapes the ministry, and it explains the reason of why I am called, and it makes me understand my identity. The ministry Warriors Unleashed is to help those who struggle with their identity uh, uh, come to knowing their identity in God. You know, I didn't have a relationship with God, but God was with me. And through the process of me going through, it shaped me to have a relationship and to lean on God even the more. And the ministry is to help you, if you want it, build a relationship with God, not man, because I can't get you to
Mm-hmm.
heaven. Okay. But God can. And the ministry that I was in, because I was desperate. That's why it's so important, woman of God, that we are on the grounds, our boots are on the grounds,
Mm-hmm.
because I was
Mm-hmm.
desperate. I was hungry. I was looking for something. I was looking for a way out. I was looking for relief. And I ran into the arms of wolves. And the reason why the enemy tries to stop us and muzzle us so much is because he knows if we get out there and open our mouths and not be silent, we're saved captives, we're saved souls. That
Mm-hmm.
is out there looking to be set free, that's out there looking for answers, that's out there looking for God. And there was no one out there at that time. And
Mm-hmm.
I ran in the arms of a cult. And
Mm-hmm.
knowingly or unknowingly, that's what it was, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one thing I can't stress enough. This is what this ministry is for. That when you run into us, you run into Jesus. You don't run into yourself. This
Mm-hmm.
ain't idolatry. You don't run into self. You run into God. We introduce you to the Lord. We teach you. We cultivate. We equip. We help build you. We help launch you. We push you. We birth you. We reignite you with your groom. Okay, we are the bride. The church is the bride, and He's our groom. We reignite you with that. We introduce some that have never been introduced to Christ, not our ways, but the ways of God. So yes,
Mm-hmm.
ma'am. Because of all that I have gone through, it helps shape the ministry that God has called me in and called me to be a shepherd over, and to help those that feel lost, deprived, rejected, abandoned, misunderstood, black sheep, to love for real,
Right.
because I didn't have
To
it.
love.
False love brought
Right.
me in, and I was about to die in the hands of a ministry because they betrayed false love. I'm telling you, I was
Mm.
oppressed. I was broken. I'm still working on my self esteem. I'm still working. You think I'm pretty? Really? My God. I'm still working on that transparency moment
Mm.
because of all that
Trans.
I've been through, to shape me for where I'm going and where I am now and who I am called to. So, yes, ma'am, I
It's
definitely
awesome.
believe that.
So, in the moment when you was talking, do you have a word for God from God for our listeners that's on here right now? A lot of the comments. If y'all saw me moving, y'all these months, I want to make sure she see your comments. I want to make sure you're getting heard and seen. I want to make sure we acknowledge you because there's things that we all going through, and most of them are in a spiritual or religious setting, and we need freedom if we're gonna do what God called us to do. So if you do have any questions, place them on the screen. Do you mind if they ask you anything before I tell them? Well, I already told them, but do you mind if they may have a question or two you might want to take? Could you hear me?
I can barely hear you, but I think I heard you say, do you mind if they ask any questions? I don't mind if there's any questions at all.
Okay.
They place on the screen.
Okay. So if y'all have any questions for Apostle Hines while she's here, please post them and we will. Could you check and see if I'm heard? Can you hear me? But if not, give them a word from God. If you have anything on your heart before my last question, would you give them? I yield the floor to you. Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear
Can
you
you
a
hear
little
me?
bit.
Okay, well, I yield the floor to you, and I'm gonna work on this monitor. If there's anything that you need to say to them.
Yes, I do. Okay, yes. I want to say this, that a lot of you, a lot of us, but a lot of you, I truly believe because of what you're called to, that you have gone through many trials, you have gone through many things, and you, even if it's mentally, insecurities, rejection, abandonment, fear, molestation, if you're a rape victim, just etc. You have gone through a lot in your life, and a lot of you, if you are like me, have questioned why. There's so much that I've gone through. I was raped. I was mishandled as well. But if you're like me, if you ever question God why, you called me and I don't feel worthy. I don't feel worth it. I don't feel like I am worthy to do your work. Know that because of what you have gone through makes you worthy. Because of what you have gone through and what God has allowed you to go through, it makes you qualified. Okay. Many of you, if you're like me, have questioned, what can I bring to the table of the kingdom of heaven? Because all it seems like is that I went through things time after time over and over again. And the Lord says to remind you that that's what you can bring to the table. Your testimony matters. Your testimony matters. If even if you're like me, I ask God to remove the memories and the heartaches and the pains of all that I have gone through. I need you to ask the Lord, give me the memories back, because it's the testimonies that is going to set many people free. It's the testimonies that is even going to bring healing and clarity and confirmation even to yourself. And sometimes we may not feel like we're worthy, right? And we don't understand what God is doing and how He is doing it within us, and what He is doing, and how He's ordering our steps. And even before coming on here, the Lord said to remind you just to keep giving Him a yes. It doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter what you came out of. It doesn't matter what you was 10 years ago. It doesn't matter the mistakes you made 5 years ago. It doesn't matter what people see or saw you as 20 years ago. He says, when you keep going, when you keep pursuing God, when you keep building a relationship with the Lord, right? When you keep being intimate with God, God says every step that you make, every milestone that you overcome, every season that you pass, He will begin to bring answers and clarity to why you went through. A lot of times we have gone through so much. And the things that we have gone through is an indicator of what we are called to. What you've gone through is an indicator of what we are called to and what we are called, my God, to gain and have authority in the realm of the spirit. What we have gone through is an indicator of who we are called to. And sometimes we can question, God, who am I called to? Okay, I'm called, but who am I called to? Have you ever been battered? Were you ever a battered woman? Were you called to battle women? Did you ever deal with domestic violence? Were you called to those men and women that battle with domestic violence? Have you ever dealt with mental anguish and mental health issues throughout your life? All the years, did they ever deem you as being a psycho or bipolar or schizophrenic? But you know there is. It's really a call on your life. Keep God giving God a yes. Those are the people you're called to. Once you heal, be delivered, and overcome from the trauma that God allows you to go through, because the enemy knows who you are before you do. So the enemy will use what you're called to against you to try to stop you. But God will allow you to come through that thing to gain authority over and bring other souls and set them free. So if you ever question, what am I called to do? I'm not worthy. I've been through this. I've been raped. Well, you're called to the rape victims. I deal with insecure, where you're called to people that are insecure in their identities in Christ, or even insecure in their identities as a human. Build a relationship. Keep going. If God reveals things to us all at once, truth of the matter is we would not be able to handle it. But your testimony is valuable. Your testimony is worth it. Worthy. Your testimony is needed. Mhm. Your testimony is powerful. What you have gone through and come out of and crossed over is powerful. You are needed in this world. You are needed in the workplace. You are needed in the marketplace. You are needed, my God, in your ministry. You are needed in the ministry that God has placed you in. You are needed to your neighbor. Your children even need you. So do not be discouraged by what you have gone through, but be motivated and unleashed by what God has allowed you to overcome. So that is the encouragement. You are worthy. You are worthy. You are worthy for this thing. Don't ever second guess. Don't ever doubt yourself. My God. And what you have gone through is only a setup for where you're going. Yeah. What you
Mm,
have gone through, I'm telling you, it's just a setup for your purpose. And if you just keep going, it'll all make sense. It may not all make sense now, but I promise you, it will all make sense. I promise you, when you
mm,
keep going, because the job of the enemy is to keep us stuck and stagnant. So we will never find the full understanding and answers of who we are and whose we are in God.
mm.
And this is just a little bit of the testimony, but I know that some of you have some powerful testimonies. It's time to tell them. And it's time to set the captives free by your voice and be unleashed. And that's my encouragement. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, woman of God, for allowing me
Thank
to
you.
share this
Thank
for the
you
first
for
time ever.
coming.
That part of my
Thank you.
testimony.
Oh, to God be the glory.
Yes, ma'am.
I thank you so much for sharing. It even made me think about some things that I had forgot about, even when I had moved to Kentucky. Um, I'm trying to make sure I get all the comments just in case somebody has a question on here. If you would like to share your, if you would like to share your journey, please contact us at benajourney@gmail.com. Your testimony is powerful, and like she said, it is needed. Thank you so much, Apostle
Yes.
Hines, for coming on. I'm gonna put you in the background. Oh, before I do, excuse me, y'all. Do you have any upcoming conferences, or do you have where can they reach you at? Your ministry date and times. So just in case they're in a vicinity or online, they could come and fellowship with you.
Yes, yes, yes. I see the question here, so I'm gonna go off that. Excuse me, but yes, we just had a encounter called the Awakening on 12th of April, but we do a lot of our virtual Bible studies and prayers is via Zoom. Um,
Mhm,
I'm not sure if anybody, because I'm not really seeing any comments from my end, but I'm not sure if any of the warriors are here, but they can
mhm,
put that information up there for me if you may, if you can comment. But we do a lot of that Bible study. We do Bible studies every week. I do prophetic trainings when the Lord allots and allows as well. Via dreams, trainings on dreams, the discipleship, Jesus, the ministry of Jesus Christ. We're on that now. The prophetic trainings, we do that. So if you want to be in touch, our ministry page is Warriors Unleashed. You can find Warriors Unleashed on Facebook. It's for now. But what the Lord is having this ministry is to do, because we are international ministry. He is having us right now travel a lot. We're traveling a lot, and we're doing a lot of revivals. This is also revival ministry as well. Amen. So we're
amen.
coming. If you feel dry, if you feel dead, we come to awaken you. We come to activate some things. So the Lord right now is causing us to travel and to pour into God's people and to activate and awaken His people where God sends us and where we're welcome. We know that we're not traditional or religious, and we know that we may not be welcome everywhere, but we are biblical. Holy is holy. All right.
Mm,
We don't do any witchcraft, new age. We don't do none of that. We don't pound read. We don't do any of that. We don't do stage. That's not what I mean. We're not religious or traditional, but we just strictly
mm,
move by the prophetic and believe in God move in the way that He sees fit. And those who invite us to their ministries to train or to awaken and support, and that's what we're doing for right now. But we have a lot of things online, trainings and Bible studies and prayers, and we do a lot of fasting and praying and fasting and praying and fasting and praying. So if you want to know more, reach out to us and just reach out to the Warriors Unleashed page on Facebook, or reach out to Shakira Green. She's the admin, or you can reach out to our email, our ministry email as well, Warriors Unleashed Ministries at gmail.com. Warriors Unleashed Ministries at gmail.com. If you have any inquiries, if you want to join us, if you need a link or what have you, you are more than welcome to join us. Um, but that's all. If there is any, we do have some encounters coming up in May. It'll be with Prophet Keistia, the ministry encounter in July, with Prophet Shakira within the Words Unleashed. So those will be posted up on that ministry page as well and on our pages as well. But just be on the lookout. God uses this ministry different. Where we go, we go. We're like the tabernacle. Where he says go, go. When we, move, we move. When we do. So you
Yes.
just gotta just be patient and keep up with us. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Once again, I'm just going to place you in the background and I'm going to be right back with you as soon as we close out. Y'all, I thank Apostle for coming on. Y'all give her a hand praise for God. Putting it on her heart to openly, that's it's something to be
Yeah.
open, but it was for a time. It's for a time when ministry have to be different, but it's all holy. We can't like they
Amen.
said, my mama and them, that might not save my children. They be like,
Right.
oh, okay, I'm dealing, did granny deal with that?
Jesus.
So, how that. So I'll be right back with you,
My God.
Apostle. Y'all, thank y'all so much. And I thank Apostle for sharing her story, not just of survival, but one of divine redemption. When the enemy tries to use God's name to destroy her, God stepped in with the truth and freedom and purpose. For everyone listening today who feels stuck in a place that look like holiness but feel like bondage, please know confusion is not of God. Fear is not of God. Abuse is not of God. And God loves those God loves does not require you to be silent and suffering. He do not deal in isolation. That means separation, people. And I want you to know that if Apostle Dezra Hines' testimony spoke to you, or if you feel like you're in a similar situation, don't stay isolated. Reach out to someone. She said you can reach out to her at Warrior Unleashed Ministries at gmail.com. There's a safe space and a sound spirit, and she's a sound spiritual leader. And there are more out there. I'm telling you, I found one, and God is worthy to be praised for that. Who will lead you and walk you to the truth. And if you're on your healing journey, we'll love to walk with you. Follow us on Instagram at It's Been a Journey. Follow us on YouTube at benajourney.com. You can email us at benajourney.com. We on Facebook at it'sbeenajourney.com. We on TikTok, it'sbeenajourney.com. DM me healing if you would like to share your journey. If you just want prayer, I guarantee I have some prayer warriors I can connect you to, even pray for you myself. Because I know God to be a healer. He's a provider. I know him to be a deliverer for myself. As Job said, I heard of you, but now I know him. So listen, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And a reminder, your story doesn't end in the wilderness. God still has a promised land for you. And remember, you're not on this journey alone. We are on this journey together. Be blessed. Until next time, stay with God because he